All right, diving right in today, it's all about the Buddhist path to enlightenment. And wow, you've given us a lot to work with. Buddhist texts, a study guide, even some extra notes. Looks like you've been doing your homework.
It is impressive. It's
Right.
fantastic to see this level of engagement with these profound teachings. Always exciting to dig into this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess our mission, if you will, is to really help make sense of it all, right?
Yeah.
Kind of zero in on how Buddhism tackles suffering
Mhm.
and that whole journey to,
Sure.
liberation. Not about converting anyone or anything like that.
Of course, of course.
It's just pure exploration, pure understanding. Now, just skimming through what you sent, a few things jumped out at me right off the bat. This idea of right conduct, that seems to come up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole mental discipline thing. Oh, and this notion that reality isn't quite what we think it is. That's always trippy, right?
Always a fascinating concept to explore.
Oh, and can we talk about the Wheel King's 7 treasures? That sounds straight out of, like, a fantasy novel.
Those treasures are definitely captivating, and we'll get to those.
Okay, good. I don't miss those.
But to really get a grasp on this path to enlightenment, I think we need to start with Buddhism's concept of suffering, or, as it's known in Pali, dukkha.
Okay, suffering, right, suffering. Not the cheeriest way to kick things off, maybe, but, I'm seeing some of your notes here, and if any of this stuff about feeling overwhelmed, like constantly chasing after things and never quite feeling satisfied, if that resonates, well, that's dukkha in action, right?
Exactly. Buddhism doesn't shy away from the fact that suffering is kind of woven into the fabric of existence.
Right.
We feel it physically, we feel it emotionally. Heck, we even experience it just in the anxiety of knowing that everything's always changing. Now, I'm curious, did any of the notes you sent mention specific types of suffering that particularly resonated with you?
That's a great question. Because, the sources you sent, they talk about the big stuff. Birth, sickness, getting older, death, the unavoidable things.
Right.
But also not getting what we want, separation from loved ones.
Yeah.
Even just dealing with annoying people on the commute. Buddhism seems to say it's important to actually confront this stuff, not just like try to brush it under the rug.
Absolutely. And by understanding the nature of suffering, that's when we can begin to see the path towards overcoming it. And that's where the teachings on right conduct and mental discipline, that's where they become really crucial.
Okay, yeah, I see that connection. Now, the 10 good karmic paths, those are mentioned quite a bit in your materials. Not killing, not stealing, not lying, that sort of thing. I have a feeling you're not just looking for like a basic rundown of the list, though, right?
Yeah.
What specifically about these paths stood out to you from all this reading you've been doing?
Well, because it's more than just a checklist of don'ts.
Right.
Buddhism is all about action, not just belief. Every choice we make, it contributes to our karma and shapes our future. And that's where the mental discipline comes in. There's actually a quote that you marked that I think gets right to the heart of this. It says, "The mind is equal in profit and loss. Therefore, he is called a bhikkhu."
Okay, intriguing. So it's saying, like, a truly disciplined mind, it's not swayed by the ups and downs of life, kind of like a monk, bhikkhu.
Precisely.
But how do we even begin to cultivate that kind of mental strength in, well, this world? I mean, it's like we're bombarded with distractions 257, right?
That is a very real challenge, no doubt about it. But even small, consistent efforts toward mindfulness, becoming more aware of our thoughts, our emotions, it can have a huge impact. Now, have you personally tried any meditation or mindfulness techniques?
I was just thinking, even if we like master all those 10 good karmic paths, life still throws curveballs.
Oh, absolutely.
That's where this idea of reality being, kind of an illusion, that's where that really comes into play, right?
Exactly. Buddhism teaches that everything is in constant flux. Nothing stays the same. And clinging to things as if they were permanent, whether it's possessions or relationships, even our own identities, well, that's a major source of suffering.
It's like trying to hold on to water. The harder you grip it, the faster it slips away.
A perfect analogy.
But how does recognizing this impermanence, how does that actually help us? I mean, if everything's always changing, doesn't that kind of make life feel, I don't know, kind of pointless?
That's a common misconception, actually. Recognizing impermanence doesn't make life pointless. It makes each moment precious.
Okay.
I noticed you underlined a passage about seeing birth and death as they really are, free from birth and death. What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely thought-provoking. Maybe it's saying that by accepting impermanence, we can actually find true freedom.
It's a profound idea to consider.
Yeah. Like, we're not so caught up in trying to control everything.
Yeah.
But honestly, this whole concept, it's a bit mind-bending.
It does challenge our usual way of thinking, that's for sure. But remember, the Buddhist path, it's a journey of understanding, not a destination. And speaking of journeys, let's talk about those Wheel King's treasures you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You seemed particularly intrigued by them. What specifically sparked your curiosity?
Well, honestly, they just sound kind of epic.
Haha, I can see why.
Like some kind of reward for all that mental discipline and right conduct we were just talking about. Almost like a video game, where you level up and unlock these amazing treasures. But I'm guessing there's a deeper meaning here, right?
You're exactly right. The Wheel King's treasures are more than just material possessions. They're symbolic of the inner qualities we cultivate on the path to enlightenment. They represent the fruits of living in accordance with the Dharma.
Okay, so let's unpack these treasures. What are they and what do they, symbolize?
Well, there are 7 of them, and each one represents a different aspect of an awakened life.
Okay.
The first one is the jeweled jewel, which eliminates darkness, purifies water, and promotes harmony among beings.
Wow.
It's a powerful symbol of the transformative power of enlightenment.
It's like the ultimate multi-tool of treasures.
Aha, you could say that.
It does everything. But I gotta ask, why would a king need a jewel that creates vegetation? Doesn't seem very practical for ruling a kingdom.
Remember, these treasures operate on both a literal and a symbolic level.
Okay.
The jewel's ability to create vegetation, it symbolizes the abundance and prosperity that arise from living a virtuous life.
Got it.
It's about the flourishing that happens both internally and externally when we're in alignment with the Dharma.
Okay, I see. So it's not just about like material wealth, but a kind of spiritual flourishing as well.
Precisely.
What about the other treasures? What kind of inner qualities do they represent?
Well, the golden wheel, for example, it symbolizes righteous rulership. It represents the ability to lead with wisdom and compassion rather than force or coercion.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
Especially in a world where power is often associated with, domination. It reminds me of a note you made actually about struggling with assertiveness at work.
Yeah.
Could this golden wheel treasure, could it offer some insight into navigating those challenges, do you think?
It's certainly worth exploring. Perhaps it's not about becoming more forceful, but about finding a way to lead with your values, to assert yourself in a way that aligns with the principles of right conduct.
I like that. It's not about suppressing your voice, but about using it skillfully and compassionately. What about the other treasures? Do they offer similar insights into, like, navigating those tricky everyday situations?
Absolutely. Take the noble minister, for instance.
Okay.
This treasure represents wise counsel and virtuous leadership. It reminds us of the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who support our spiritual growth, who offer sound guidance.
So it's like having a mentor or, someone who can help us see things more clearly and make choices that are, aligned with our highest good. I'm starting to see how these treasures, how they can be applied to, like, our everyday lives.
That's the beauty of these teachings.
What about the remaining treasures? What do they symbolize?
Well, the horse represents the energy and swiftness needed on the spiritual path. It's about moving forward with determination and focus. The elephant, on the other hand, embodies strength and stability, representing the power to overcome obstacles.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. Each of these treasures, it seems to represent a quality that's essential for navigating the challenges of life, both internal and external.
You're picking up on the essence of it.
What about the last two?
The householder treasure symbolizes the abundance and prosperity that come from right livelihood, while the general represents the courage and discipline needed to conquer our inner demons and negative influences.
Wow. It's like they each provide a piece of the puzzle, a different facet of what it means to live a truly fulfilling life. But it's a lot to take in. It's like, where do we even begin to cultivate all these qualities?
That's where the teachings on right conduct and mental discipline come back into play. By practicing mindfulness, cultivating compassion, and making ethical choices in our daily lives, we gradually start to embody these qualities. It's a process, not a one-time achievement.
It's like building a muscle.
Exactly.
The more we practice, the stronger we become. And the more we embody these qualities, the closer we get to experiencing the true treasures within ourselves.
Beautifully said.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive into enlightenment, I'm struck by how, interconnected everything is. Conduct, mental discipline, this whole idea about impermanence, it all kind of weaves together, right?
It does. It's an intricate tapestry.
But I got to admit, it also feels like a pretty big challenge.
It is a path that requires commitment, that's for sure, and ongoing effort. But the journey itself is where the transformation happens, you know?
Right.
Each step we take, each insight we gain brings us closer to a life of greater peace, greater understanding.
I was thinking about some of the notes you made about feeling stuck in certain patterns, like maybe getting caught up in worries or reacting, impulsively in certain situations. Do you think these Buddhist teachings, do they offer any guidance on how to actually break free from those kind of patterns?
Absolutely. The Buddhist teachings really emphasize the power of mindfulness, self-awareness, to break free from those habitual patterns. It's about recognizing them as they arise, observing them without judgment, and then choosing a different course of action.
So it's not about like suppressing those thoughts or emotions,
Yeah.
but more about becoming aware of them and then like making a conscious choice about how to respond.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that space between stimulus and response. That moment of pause where we can choose wisdom over reactivity. And that's where practices like meditation can be so helpful, you see.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They train our minds to become more present, more aware, and more capable of making those skillful choices.
And that reminds me of the Wheel King's treasures. It's like each treasure, it represents a quality that helps us navigate those challenging moments, whether it's the courage of the general, the wise counsel of the noble minister, or the illuminating clarity of the jewel, right?
It's a beautiful way to think about it. Those treasures aren't some far-off reward, you know? They're qualities we can cultivate within ourselves through dedicated practice, through right living. And as we embody those qualities, well, we naturally become more resilient, more compassionate, and more capable of creating a life of meaning and purpose.
I love that. It's not about waiting for enlightenment to like strike us out of nowhere, like a bolt of lightning. It's about taking those small steps, those consistent steps each day towards greater awareness, wisdom, compassion.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. The Buddha himself was a human being who walked this path and discovered the way to liberation. The teachings offer a guide, a map. But it's up to each of us, to put in the effort, to practice, to learn, and to grow.
It's an empowering message, really. We have the power to shape our own experience, to create a life that aligns with our deepest values, our aspirations.
And as we embark on this journey of self-discovery, we begin to realize that true happiness, true fulfillment, it isn't found in external circumstances, but in the cultivation of inner peace, wisdom, and compassion.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of, I don't know, both challenge and possibility. The path to enlightenment, it might not be easy, but it's a journey worth taking. And I hope that the insights we've explored today, that they'll serve as like a guidepost, a source of inspiration as you continue your own exploration of this path.
Thank you for joining us. May you find peace, wisdom, and the courage to walk your own path to enlightenment.